Last minute shakeup at 5:30 a.m., laundry situation not good. And when your focus is on helping your clients, it's easy to forget about yourself. But NASM knows trainers.
Morning, Ryan. It's okay.
And staying in front of the day isn't always as
Thanks,
simple
Ryan.
as 1,
What's
2,
up?
3. So when the unexpected has you pressing pause,
What's the latest on creatine?
I'm going to get back to you on that.
let NASM1 help you press play. Visit NASM.org to sign up for a membership today.
You're listening to the Peak Physique Podcast with Andre Adams on the NASM Podcast Network.
Hey guys, welcome back to another exciting episode of the NASM Peak Physique Podcast. I'm your host, Andre Adams, NASM Master Trainer and IFBB Physique Olympian. Today, we are going to break down what it's like to win the Olympia and beyond. And we've got a very special guest I'm so excited to introduce in just a moment here. And with her, we're going to be doing a deep dive on things like mindset, what her training blueprint is, and upcoming goals, and all kinds of fun stuff, even a Fast 5 Q&A at the end. So again, welcoming for the first time somebody who truly embodies what it means to chase greatness, your 2022 IFBB Bikini Olympia Champion, Maureen Blanquisco. Maureen, welcome to the show for the first time.
Hi guys, thank you so much for having me here. I'm
Thank
excited.
you. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I know we've got a few huge projects that you and I are working on later this year, which we'll definitely touch on later today in this episode. But thanks for taking time out of your day to join us.
Of
And
course.
you're pretty close. You're deep into prep mode right now. So
2 weeks out.
2 weeks out. So let's give
Yeah.
a little teaser right now before we do a deep dive. And later, what shows do you have coming up?
My plan is doing a Pittsburgh and New York. I have
Yeah.
never competed in Pittsburgh. It's going to be my first time. Incredibly, I did New York. That was my first ever American show back in 2018.
Hmm.
17, it has to be 17. It was more like, just to see what's going on, and actually more often because I just wanted to see New York. So
Yeah.
I chose that show and I had so much fun.
Yeah,
But
I've
yeah,
been to New York a couple of times too. I love that show. And let's maybe tell the followers too, because not everyone maybe knows your story or your journey. Tell them where you're originally from and where you spend most of your time these days during prep.
so I am currently located in LA right now, but I was born in the Philippines and I grew up in Norway. So half of my teenage life in the Philippines, and then I moved to Norway. And the rest is I moved here probably like 6 years ago in Los Angeles. And yeah, we'll see. I'm thinking to move states though, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure yet. So
Well, Chicago is always, you get all 4 seasons. There's lots to do, but you'll have a trip here and you can check out more parts of
yeah,
the
let's
country later
see.
this year.
I'll put Chicago on test.
All right, there we go. I like it. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Maureen, we're going to cover some really fun topics today. And one thing that I know the burning question that everyone definitely wants to know from anyone who's ascended to these heights is they want to know what it's like to begin that journey and what does that road to the Olympia look like? So, let's jump right in. Take us back to the beginning and tell us how your fitness journey, and we're talking like competitive fitness journey especially, how did that get started and what made you want to jump on an IFBB Pro stage?
So it was really like out of nowhere plan. It wasn't really like this. First of all, I never even knew about the rules where you have to win a nationals or regional nationals and then get your pro card. And I didn't know anything about pro card. But when I was living in the Philippines, I used to compete in competitive swimming. I did backstroke, and I've been playing volleyball since I was young. My mom is a varsity volleyball, so I've been in sports for I can as long as I can remember. And when I moved from the Philippines to Norway, I had this itch of competing. I've always wanted to compete or perform or anything. Like I remember when I was younger, I'm one of those kids where I had to force my parents to put me in a sports. It's
Hmm.
not the all the way around. So when I arrived in Norway, I did gymnastics. I did cheerleading for 6 years. And as that journey begins, I started feeling like I work better as an athlete rather than in a group.
Hmm.
So because I am so competitive that it's if you fall off out of a stunt, for example, it's not just my fault, it's also one of the other faults. So I get very frustrated when those things are happening. So I realize I work better as a lone athlete. That it's
Hmm.
all up to my hand if I'm gonna lose or if I want to win, it's all up to me. So I started looking for anything to do. So I was in YouTube, I did all my research in Google, YouTube, and then out of a sudden I just stumbled in this Mr. Olympia video, which is I remember India Paulino, right?
Yep. Back in the day.
And she knew every time I see India, I always tell her, you are the one, the reason why I'm here. Because
Yeah.
I've seen her in Barcelona in Arnold Classic 2015 as like a guest star in a booth. I went in her. I was just like so starstruck. And until
Yep.
now, the day, and she knows that every time I see her, I just have to remind her. And yeah, I just started prepping, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it's amazing when we look back. It's so funny you mentioned that with India. I remember very vividly also being an amateur, and I was only amateur for about 6 months, and I ended up getting my pro card my first season. But I
Wow.
remember being like awestruck, starstruck, and I think I was backstage at the North Americans, and I saw Sadiq Hatzovic and Jeremy Buendia, who were kind of like the rock stars, 2012,
Yeah,
2013, and on. And I remember thinking, wow, like I got to grab a picture with these guys, and maybe one day I can be like them. And then literally the next year, I'm on the Olympia stage facing off with these guys, right? So it's like, we talk a lot about law of attraction and thoughts become things, but you're spot on. You've got somebody who's a good example, and you can almost copy that blueprint and make it yours, right? And then walk your own path to that Olympia stage. So
that's
I love
true.
it. Yeah.
That's so true.
Was there a specific moment, during that journey, you start competing, you're starting to meet other superstars in the sport like India? Was there a certain moment when you knew I could be on the Olympia stage one day? Like, did it click, or was it just kind of, it just evolved, organically?
The thing is, my only goal at the very beginning is to step on the Olympia stage. That's it. I didn't have any goal of like getting my pro card or going to international shows because I really don't know how the process works. So this is like a very interesting story that happened to me at the very beginning. So in Norway, bodybuilding is pretty taboo. As not everybody knew about this, but it's pretty taboo. So we only have two like competitive gym, who is like a gym that has a team of competitors. I'm not gonna name, but I'm gonna name my gym at least. City Gym 24/7 in Sandnes. It's where I live is it's a small town.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I went to the other gym where it's a little farther from where I lived. And I just went in there and I asked for a coach. I told them, hey, I wanted to compete at Mr. Olympia. So I mean, I didn't know like, the thing. So I remember the gym owner was like, look at me dead eye and just like
Yeah.
started kind of like smirking. And I'm like, I'm dead serious because I didn't know it was like Mr. Olympia. I didn't know that was like the pinnacle of the bodybuilding, right?
Yep.
So I went there and he told me, okay, like undress, show me like what are we gonna start with. And I remember this is vivid, this is real, this happened. He told me I won't make it in bikini because back then we call it bikini fitness, right? He told
Yep.
me I won't make it in bikini because that is the biggest category and it's too mainstream. So I won't make it. I remember that day so clear. I'm just one of those people that doesn't really, I don't really care a lot about what other think of what I want, because I want to go to Miss Olympia and that's what I'm gonna do. So when he told me that, I was just okay, and I left right away. And the next day I went straight to the other gym, which I'm so fortunate, and they gave me like the chance to actually prep. They coached me and they gave me the chance to, I'm not sure if they believe in me or not, but they still gave me the chance. And that's all I needed, that chance. Because back in the days, I don't know if it's the same here in the US. You need to be in a team to compete.
Right.
So I needed a team to be able to compete. And I'm so fortunate enough that that city gym took me over.
Right. You found your people. And I love that
Yeah.
you mentioned that, because we're going to talk on mindset too in a bit. And that's one thing that gets oftentimes overlooked. Like, the universe has this magical way of, seemingly closing one door, and it can be really frustrating. Some people get discouraged, but instead you chose to take that as fuel, right? Tell me I
Yeah.
can't do something, and now I'm going to prove you wrong, right? Now I've got a
Yeah.
chip on my shoulder. And I love that thought. I love that mindset, because I share that too. And I can tell you've got that competitive fire in you, and you just needed the right trigger to awaken that side
Yes.
of you, right?
Yes.
And looking back now in hindsight, had that not happened, maybe you would have joined the wrong team, or you wouldn't have been as ambitious or as excited to prove the naysayers wrong, right?
Hmm. That's
Yeah,
true.
that's great. Maureen, in your opinion, what do you think separates athletes who make it to the Olympia stage from those who fall short? So, even those that turn pro, because I don't think, to your point, I think there's a lot of newer athletes that don't realize there's a significant gap between an IFBB pro and an IFBB Olympian.
Hmm.
And what do you think is that magic thing, right, that makes the difference between a top 10 Olympian and, just a regular IFBB pro?
Honestly, for me, it's such a clear, I have a very clear mindset. Until now, I mean, back in the days, I have a very clear plan. I think that's what separates, in my opinion. For example, I've been through a lot. Like, I remember I've been through, I don't even know how I get here, honestly. But one thing that I could tell is that I really wanted to do it. So there's difference between I like doing it to I really wanted it, right?
Hmm.
Because I remember my mindset then, I swear to God, there's no way I could ever like make it if I didn't want it that bad. I remember like, when you see distractions around you, you're just kind of like, oh, I'm not gonna make it. But honestly, I didn't had that before. I had so many people or circumstances have thrown into my path that I don't even know how I made it. So
Hmm.
I think the difference for me is that I was so focused on the destination. I was so focused on my goal. I only have one goal. Remember this, Mr. Olympia.
Yep.
That's it. Not even like getting the pro card or anything. I was just so focused on one thing because I really, really wanted this. And then I'm also willing to do anything that I can to get
Yep.
there because I have no plan B, only plan A. And
Yeah.
that's what I kind of did. You didn't see any distraction. It just
Yep.
go with it. I think the number one thing is that you need to know exactly what you wanted, and
Right.
the
So
rest goes with it.
it's like identifying that huge, scary goal. And then you might not know the exact path you're going to take to get
Exactly.
there, but you're getting
Exactly.
there, right?
Exactly. But the thing is, you
Yeah.
cannot fake it. That's the
Right.
one thing that I realized back in the days when I'm looking back right now. You can't just say, I will get there. It's more likely like you really know deep inside you that you will get there.
Yes. You
Period.
have to believe with like full conviction that it's
Exactly.
going to happen. And you touched on something there that I really believe in strongly also. And it's like, when you are obsessed with a goal and you believe it to your very core, what happens is your mindset shifts, right? I
Yeah.
know for me, even just getting like the first step, right, the pro card, I came up short the first couple national shows, but was improving and everything. And I remember I put so much pressure on myself to win every single show. And when I changed that mindset to, you know what, it doesn't really matter if I win this very next show. I know what the end goal is. I know what the destination is. So whether it's one show or 10 shows, I know I'm going to the Olympia stage.
Exactly.
And, right? When you change that,
I think that's it. I think you just
yeah,
break it right there, because
yep,
mine was totally different. It's the same but different path in a way.
yeah,
Like, I could have chosen to compete right away, right? But I
yep,
did, like, I think I did a year bulk. When I say bulk, Andre, bulk. My
yeah,
real weight, I remember when I started, I was 51 kilo, and I
yeah,
went up to 65. You know
yeah,
how heavy is it for 5 feet girl? That's heavy. I
yeah,
couldn't even breathe. And I was totally okay to look, you can say, chubby. I was really big. I was okay with it. I didn't care about what other people would say. I remember, like, my sister, my family, they were like, whoa, you're okay, like, you've gained a lot. And which is, I don't care. My only end game is I need to build muscle to be able
yes,
to cut. So I don't care if I don't look good in everyday clothing. I didn't care at all. So it's kind of the same but different, but you have to have this one goal. Like,
yep.
nothing matters except that one.
Yeah, that's what it takes. And I think people don't understand that concept because, we've all got other things that other obligations, responsibilities, work, life, kids, spouse, etc. But when you
Hmm.
really, really are trying to achieve something of this caliber, like not even,
Exactly.
not even winning the Olympia, just getting to the Olympia in the first place, you got to
Exactly.
be all in. Like there can't be
Exactly.
a side hobby. Like this is it.
You really want it. You have to want it badly.
Yes. All right, guys, if you are just tuning in, welcome back to the NASM Peak Physique Podcast. We are here today with my good friend, 2022 Miss Bikini Olympia champ herself, Maureen Blanquisco. Maureen, we've got some great discussion going here. I'm loving some of the mindset and strategies that we're sharing with our followers. And I want to dive into some training and nutrition blueprint. So we're going to lay out maybe some things that have evolved or changed in your own training over the years. And you and I had a little discussion on this previously, right? I know when we do our
Yeah.
work together later this year, I got to show you some new things.
Yeah, you
NASM
better.
style. So, let's kick it off there. Your physique has continued to definitely improve and evolve each season, even since the Olympia win. Can you walk us through maybe some things that have evolved or changed over the years in your training?
So when I started training, I didn't know anything about glute isolation. I never had like a personal trainer. So everything that I've learned is from people that I talk to, or most likely 80% is from me going to YouTube, just checking. I remember back in the days when I didn't know the name of, like, shoulder lateral, for example. I had to go to Google and check it. What is it? So most of my training, like my exercises, are coming from, my own knowledge for how I see it, how I learned the muscle activation. But what changed is that when I started this fitness journey, I used to train compound movements, like a
Mhm.
lot of compound, just to build the frame. And I think before I won the Olympia 2022, maybe 2020, I started learning like glute isolation, which is hip thrust, for example. Then I started doing hip thrust, and that made a huge difference in my physique. But I really believe in training heavy, maybe not like PR, more likely like 10 to 12 reps, but heavy, heavy enough for me, not to damage my body, but heavy enough for my muscle.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So for you, it's definitely working in what we would call the hypertrophy phase, making sure you're getting some good time and attention, putting some good stimulus on the muscle. And then I'm sure you've got some basic progressions in there over time, especially in those bulk phases. You know, we're talking back when Maureen was, 60 kg. So you definitely want to increase intensity.
I couldn't even climb in the stairs, honestly.
Hey, look, I feel you. You know, I don't know if you know my full journey, but I switched from pro men's physique to pro classic in like
Wow.
2017. I went from 185 to 240 pounds, which was insane. Took me like a year and a half to do it. I feel you. I needed help putting my socks on back then. So, but you do what you got to do, right?
Exactly.
So, no, that's good. And then with your training, do you generally have the same or similar split now in, let's say, like an off season versus your on season? You know, you're a couple weeks out from your shows. Do you generally, change your training split? Obviously, less compounds these days and more glute iso.
It really depends, honestly. Like, for example, on this prep, our last year, I didn't train legs at all. And this year, I started training legs. So I think I've been doing this for like alone. I'm talking about like training regimen alone for probably over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So more than a decade. And I've learned my body and I've learned the splits. I remember, Andre, I remember back in the days, I had such a big legs. I remember before I did my first year as a pro,
Yeah.
I had such a big legs that I didn't know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what kind of training splits. I was so desperate, and I messaged top Olympians, and they didn't know me that back then because I haven't really competed in the States before. I messaged them like, "Hey, like, could you help me?" I was really desperate, and then I learned like, if you don't want to grow a certain muscle, don't train it. Period.
Right.
So I did that. I stopped training legs for 4 years, literally just glute isolation, which it balanced it out already, especially for my genetic. I don't know if it's Asian genetic or it's just me in general. It was very difficult for me to grow some glutes,
Mm-hmm.
which I already made peace with that. I'm okay with that. I can put on like 3 times harder workout than anybody else.
Yeah.
And I did that. So now I'm back on. I just literally just checked my form checks, my stage photos, and I'm like, okay, I think I'm missing hamstring, or and it takes time. Like, I remember before I won the Olympia, people were like saying in the comment section, like, oh, she's missing a lot of glutes. I know. Like,
Mm-hmm.
thank you for pointing out. I know, and it's just
Yep.
hard to build it. It doesn't really. I like constructive criticism. I love
Right.
it. I love to hear people, like, the feedbacks, because I knew it, but it feels good to hear from somebody, if it makes sense to you.
Yep.
So my theory is always correct. So over
Yeah.
time, I learned the splits, and yeah, I've been doing the same splits like forever.
Yep.
Pretty
And it's
much.
crazy that the criticism, like you said, is sometimes what fuels you down the stretch. And being able to be realistic and listen to your own truth, right? Because we've all got those weak areas. It doesn't matter, right? Even 8-time Mr. Olympia, the GOAT, Ronnie Coleman, would be criticized for, having a distended belly on stage or something, right? And you
Mhm.
use that as fire. And now not only am I gonna take that perceived weakness and fix it, I'm gonna make it one of my strengths, right? So in your
Exactly.
case, right, going to work on glutes and anywhere else where people could possibly perceive it as a deficiency, that's where we want to like really bring those areas up. And then, you present it so beautifully through your posing and your stage presence as well. I know that's something that definitely has worked in your favor on stage. And, while we're there, that's actually a good segue. What was, let's say, coming out of even your Olympia win, what was your feedback from the judges? And I'll preface that too, for you guys that maybe haven't been following the sport long enough. That was a shake-up year, right? Because the judges knew bikini was getting too hard, too depleted. Girls were coming in stringy or with, separation, deep etched hamstrings and abs. So they wanted a little bit, I don't want to say softer look, but less hardness, right? Less depletion.
Yeah.
And I was so happy when you won that year because I'm like, that's what bikini should look like, right? and they
Thank
kind of
you.
took it back to where the original intention, I think, was on bikini. And it I think there was a couple divisions that year as well, because men's physique was very similar. And a lot of people were like so confused. And we say it all the time. It's not the most jacked person or the most
Exactly.
extreme physique that wins. It's who meets the criteria the best, right?
Exactly. No, as for especially for bikini, it's very difficult because bikini is like, for how I see it, how I understand what they're looking for is that, let's say you go to this show and everybody's hard, right? Of course, the judges will just look for who is the best in that show. Let's
Hmm.
say the girl there is way harder than the criteria, but she was the best in that show, which she will win the show, right?
Right.
So I think I don't usually ask for my feedback anymore because I know if I'm too soft, I know if I'm missing this, I know. But if I'm kind of like losing sidetrack, of course, I would ask the
Mhm.
judges. For instance, when I won, I like how I look when I won. I wish I could be tad tighter, but I love how I look when I won. And the thing about me is that I'm just genetically like that. It's
Mhm.
impossible for me to get harder than that.
Mhm.
I think that is the hardest I could be, in
Yeah.
fact. And I've known that. I learned that and I've made peace with that fact already that I will never be as conditioned as the other girls,
Right.
you
And the
know.
beautiful part about that, Maureen, is you were able to make that the standard, right? And I tell
I'm
people this all
so
the time.
happy. Honestly, I'm so happy that that become a
Yeah.
standard because that's all I could give you guys, as a condition wise, that's all I
Yeah.
can do.
And it's we're not a beauty pageant, but at the same time, our overall look, right? The entire package that we present matters. And when you can pull it all together, and it's to me, I don't know if you've ever seen a strongman competition, but the way that scoring works, it's not too different than what we do here. You don't have to win any individual event or category, but if you have the best overall score and meet the criteria the best in each one of those events, you can still win the entire thing. And it's
Yeah,
very similar with bodybuilding. I've won pro shows where I certainly was not the biggest guy, was not the hardest or the driest or the fullest, but you did really well in each one of those categories, and you pull it
exactly.
together and you pull off the win. So it's very possible.
Yeah, you have to be very patient with that mindset because I remember for bikini, for instance, you don't have to have the best glutes or the
Hmm.
biggest glutes. It has to flow with the body. Like when I'm in the backstage, if I didn't understood the assignment, I would probably freak out because I don't look like a superhero in the backstage. I'm not as super hard as anybody. My glute is not the biggest glutes. I will probably be frustrated, but at the end of the day, I realized that I need to be more patient with that because bikini is all about balance, period.
Hmm.
Because that's why there's a wellness category, which is who has the biggest glutes, the best glutes. So
Yep.
you really need to be patient with yourself because each category has their own beauty. There you
Hmm.
go.
I love
And
it.
yeah,
So yeah, listen, and this is where having the right support circle and team around you can really help you, stay in tune with what's trending, the criteria, what are the judges rewarding. So,
yes.
listen to Maureen's advice there. You gotta do your homework, be a student of the game for sure. And before we move on, we're gonna touch on nutrition next. But I definitely this summer, Maureen, after New York, we got to throw some undulating periodization at you. So I
Oh
wanna
my gosh.
Yes, we're going to throw some different phases. We've got 5 different phases that you can train in. And then within
Okay.
those phases, there's different types of progressions, like, and you're probably familiar with some of them on your own, like supersets, drop sets, basic progressions. Um, but there's other things too, where we can increase things like training density on your lagging areas, cluster sets, rest pause sets. There's so many fun things we can throw at you. So,
That's crazy because I've never done
yeah,
that. I don't do a drop set on G, supersets. I
yeah,
just train like a bodybuilder, like,
yeah.
a
You
straight
got the
up
bro
power
split.
lifter, old school.
Marine's got the bro split. So No, it's good. We're going to throw some advanced stuff at you. I would love to put you through it, use it for a few weeks. You give me some feedback. And then, of course, when you're here, we'll teach you some different movements and, ways to isolate any perceived weaknesses. I don't think you have any weaknesses, but
I have few weakness. I just know how to hide it.
yeah, well, that's good. That's what it takes. So with that, we're going to touch on a little bit of nutrition. And this is good. I want to keep it educational enough, but I want this just to be real, and I'll share mine too, like what we're doing with macros and meal timing. So let's keep it basic there. Do you prefer meal prep, meal plans, we'll call it, or macro plans? And then what does your meal timing look like throughout the day?
I prefer meal plans for sure. Like I've never really done the micronutrients calculator. I've never done that. I would love to learn it though. Don't get me wrong. But
Mm-hmm.
I've always been I like to be in plan. Like I like like instruction. I'm really good at following things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I also over like the decade that I've been doing this, I always follow on what works for me or what the thing is I'm such an unorthodox bikini pro. Like I like to have fun. I love to travel. I when I'm on prep, I still do things that you'll see me outside. Like you'll see me hanging outside and have my meals with me. I prioritize like over the years that been doing this, I prioritize my app happiness over my prep
Mm-hmm.
because what I noticed that when I'm happier, when I feel like I'm not on prep, it makes my prep so much easier.
Yes.
So I kind of like learn the secret key about prepping, like as a lot of people like who follows me on Instagram, they always ask me, oh my god, how do you travel and compete? Like there's a time that I was in Spain for half a year before Olympia. I was in Norway. I've learned how to make it as a lifestyle, if it makes sense to you.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
And that's why you have that competitive edge too, because it really does have to be your full-time lifestyle. Can't be like this little side thing. I'm kind of training for these shows and then I'm doing all this other stuff. Like this has to be just built into your daily routine, your habit,
exactly.
your lifestyle, right? Where it's like more autonomous, more enjoyable. And
Exactly.
I think you're right. I mean, think back, especially back as an amateur, but we see it on the pro stages too. Have you ever been backstage and you see people that look like they're about to go into a UFC fight? you know,
Like
they're
so
like, they're like mad to be there. And I'm like, how are you
yeah,
guys here? I love being here. I'm grateful to be
yeah,
here. Like if you're that miserable, this might not be a long-term sport for you. So you have
you'll
to
burn
love what
out.
you do. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
definitely got to keep that stress low. And then another common one that we'll see on the nutrition side is a bit of carb cycling. Do you do any carb cycling with your prep heading into your shows, or do you keep more, flat, constant macros down the stretch?
Honestly, it depends really. Like every season for me is so different. There's a time I'm like eating so little, and there's a time I'm eating way too much, right? But
Hmm.
I've always liked carb cycling. Don't get me wrong. I've always liked it. My body always worked with carb cycling, but it really depends. Like, how would I look? But for example, my body is so unpredictable. It's like my body has its own boss. I just have to follow her. If she doesn't wanna respond, she will not respond, and I have to be okay with that. So
Hmm.
it depends, like really. It works. My body, what we notice is that my body doesn't need so much fuel.
Okay.
I look better when I'm eating not crazy much of carbs. And I
Hmm.
also noticed that my body don't work good with too much fat.
Yep.
So depending, like if I had to choose between carbs or fat, I would probably work better with carbs than fat.
Yeah, and for you, that's definitely going to help keep that nice fullness, right? That you had
Yeah.
at Olympia. So a lot of people, in fact, that's one of I think the myths for bikini, like people that maybe don't understand what we do, is they think that we're just not eating anything.
Oh no.
There's not a lot of calories, like there's no carbs. And that might be the case for some points in prep,
Probably
especially
at the
if you're
end.
behind. Yeah, maybe at
Right.
the end of prep, the last couple of weeks, or
If
if
it's
you're
needed.
behind. Yes, only if needed. But
Yeah.
going into a show, we're eating food and
No.
coming out of a show, like our bikini athletes actually eat more than a lot of normal guy athletes, is what I've realized. So
Yeah, for real.
yeah, it's crazy. It's not uncommon, especially on the pro level. It's not uncommon in the off season to get above 3,000 calories for bikini competitors. So
Yeah.
that's definitely one myth that we'll break down and debunk right here. Guys, if you're just joining us, again, welcome back to the NASM Peak Physique Podcast. We've got my good friend, Miss Olympia Bikini Champ, Maureen Blanquisco, and we are going to break down a couple more things before we wrap today, Maureen. And the next one, you and I have been kind of weaving this in and out, but I love talking about championship mindset. And, the biggest question I want you to share an answer for is, how do you mentally prepare for the Olympia stage, or even your upcoming shows? You've got some big ones, Pittsburgh and New York. If you guys have never been there, it's like a mini Olympia. It's the who's who of bodybuilding. So, what do you emotionally put your mind through? How do you prepare for these big battles?
Oof, it's gonna be like that's very interesting. You caught me off guard there. So every time I start a prep, let's say any show, I always start slow. Like, let's say I would do like quicks with no cardio, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly I would add up 10 minutes of cardio. Like really slow, like slow coming into a show rather than, jump from off season to on season.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I like to trick my brain, and it always worked for me. When I trick my brain that way, my brain doesn't think that I'm on prep.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, I'll add more cardio there. Like after a few weeks, I'm gonna start, adding cleaner food, which means now I'm gonna put chicken rather than beef. It makes sense to you.
Yep.
And then as I get closer to the show, let's say on the stage, first of all, for me, I love to perform, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing all this prep because of the performance. So it's a
Yep.
very different like goal for me at this point after winning the Olympia. Like for me, the only thing that matters is the like performance. For me, it's not competition; it's a performance. I always say, and every time I step to stage, I always say like, "You got this, Betty." Like I always just
Yeah.
like think like this, and because that's why I'm on the stage. That's exactly why I did the peak week, the dieting because of the performance itself. So for
Right.
me, it's very difficult for me to answer like, how are you so confident? I just don't like, I'm not scared to be on the stage. That's what I'm looking forward to. Like that time of the prep, the performance part is what I'm looking forward to.
Right. No, I love it. And that helps keep you grounded and centered. And it's like taking an exam, right? And people maybe go through the class, right? They're in college, they go through their classes just fine, but they get to the final exam. And all of a sudden there's this perception of pressure and expectations. And what if I fail? And self-doubt creeps in. And it's pretty similar in what we do, where people, the second they tell themselves, oh my God, I have to win this show, or they look at it any differently than just enjoying the process of getting to the show, to that performance. That's
Mhm.
when you start getting the extra unnecessary pressure, or comparing ourselves to who else might be in the show on social media and getting in our own
Yeah, that's
head,
the thing. That's the thing
right?
too. Like you
Big
you
time.
can never do that. You can never do that because at the end of the day, it's not like swimming, it's not like
Yeah.
soccer that it's up to you. It's totally up to the judges.
Yep.
So how if the judges prefer your look? You just gave yourself through trauma. You just stressed twice. You know
Right.
what I mean? So and what I was thinking is like, first, the judges are also human. They're
Hmm.
also people who has ties, like formal clothes. And they're just humans also, just as you. And they know how hard you work. So there's definitely no pressure, you know? They
Yep.
would look a little bit intimidating while you're in the stage. But at the end of the day, they're still human. I always thought like this.
Yes. They're just people.
They're just people, like judge you and they like your look, they love your look. If not, then not. And that's pretty much it. And I've always thought like I'm only nervous if I didn't do my prep 100%.
Yeah.
That is the biggest fear I have. Is the only fear I have actually is to be on the backstage while pumping and thinking, oh my God, I should have done my cardio more. Oh my God, I should have not cheated this day. That is my biggest fear, which I know I would never do. I know
Mhm.
I would never fail that part. So I'm always confident either my body doesn't, let's say I don't like how I look, but it
Yep.
doesn't matter. For me, I did everything I could. That's all I could do, you know?
Right. So controlling the things that are in your direct control, but not
Exactly.
stressing over things beyond your control, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Especially in
love
the
that mindset.
sports. Especially in
Yeah.
the sports. It's not up to us, you know.
Yep. Yeah, our sport is very subjective, right? As much as we would love to say it's objective, it's very subjective.
Yeah.
And the judges do a phenomenal job of trying to create a standard and stick to and adhere it. If I'm being honest, I would hate to be a judge. There's no part of
It's
me that would be a
hard.
judge. It
It's
would be
so
so
hard for them, you
hard.
know.
Right.
Like
Everyone
I
that's
would
so
I
good
would
is
be I
different.
would be cross-eyed. I would be cross-eyed for hours checking each beautiful physique and just judging who
Yeah.
is the best. It's a difficult job.
It is. It
So
is. And most of the time they get it right, but sometimes maybe they didn't see what you saw, right? Or from their
that
angle and their perception
that's a
or what the
thing.
athlete showed, right?
That's a thing too. Like you
Yeah.
have to be in the show to understand why they chose the winner.
Yes, exactly. And you can't look at it
Because
on social media.
it's different,
Yeah.
the vibe. Let's say the other one is tighter than the other one, but the vibe that she like put on the stage, like, wow, she's the winner. Like at
Yeah.
some point of the show, when someone walks in, you'll know right away, okay, she's gonna win. You know what
Yep.
I mean? You have to be
100%.
there to see.
Exactly.
Mhm.
All right. Well, we talked a little bit on some of your upcoming big goals of what's next for Maureen. We've got Pittsburgh and New York lined up. So you guys better make sure you check that out, by the way. Pittsburgh is really it's going to be off the chain this year. You probably, if you caught my episode with Tyler Mannion recently, he's talked about the Pittsburgh Power and Pro Festival. So that's just going to be fun all the
The
way around.
expo. It's gonna be
Yes,
an
there's a huge expo.
expo.
There's everything. I'm
Yeah.
going to see if I can make it out there myself. We've got some local shows here I'm coaching at. So we'll see. I'm torn right now. But, other than that, we got some other new goals that we can share with our audience quick for you as well. One of them
Yes.
is the NASM-PBC. So that's something that will be new for you. And you can learn more of those fun exercises. I actually was one of the contributors on the exercise manual, so look out for that.
Awesome.
Um, but that'll be good for you. I think it helps us as athletes with self-enlightenment of understanding. A lot of times we know the outcomes of what works, right, from a practical side, but now we get to understand more of the theory and the framework on why
Mhm.
these things work, and maybe some other strategies that you can use throughout prep if you run into a certain situation. So I think you're really going to love the PBC course. And then down the road, if you decide to coach any athletes of your own one day, and maybe you are today, this will be a great resource for you as well.
Interesting. Okay. I'm actually coaching one girl. I've been coaching her since I can remember, honestly.
Yeah.
But, maybe eventually.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you and I can talk when you're here because I'll bring you up to speed, and we'll make sure you finish the course strong, but you're going to get a lot of extra tools in your toolbox. And,
Awesome.
speaking of which, so we've got two big seminars coming up. And
I'm
I
so
know
excited.
that's something you've been wanting to get into for quite some time now. And I think it doesn't really get any bigger than this. So for you guys that don't know, or maybe haven't seen our little teasers, we're just now starting to, plug it because it's a few months out yet. But we've got our first one just north of Chicago at my gym, which is Snap Fitness Kenosha. And a lot of the followers here saw that we had the Legend Seminar last year with Ronnie Coleman, Ashley Kaltwasser. We had Cass, Gillis, Dr. Indy. Oh gosh, Joe Piersante. I can't remember. Andrea Shaw, 5-time Miss Olympia. So many people out. And that kind of, created the snowball effect. So this year, we're going to do one with Maureen and I we've actually got two things going down in we'll call it Milwaukee to Chicago area. But we'll be at the NPC Shredded Cheddar making a guest appearance, handing out some trophies. And we'll also be taking, some PT and posing clients. in Kenosha, Wisconsin, before we head to Hawaii. So I know that's your jam. Maureen, you are no stranger to Hawaii, especially post Olympia. And what do you think so far? Are you excited? I mean, we got a huge group coming out.
I'm so excited. I've known a lot of like Hawaiian locals like from Oahu because there's a few times already. Like I've been there like 3 times and they already asked for like a seminar and I've always wanted to do it. I just didn't know much people how to do it and I didn't have so much time to actually set it up. So I'm very excited to be there and actually do the actual seminar.
Yeah, well, we've got a huge crowd waiting for us. I actually did that seminar last year, a 2-day event at GY Fitness Center with myself, Ashley Kaltwasser, Sean Ray, and my business partner, Dr. Indy. And it was completely sold out. It was amazing. We gave away some free NASM courses there too. So it's going to be a blast. Awesome. You guys are going to love it. So if you guys are interested in checking that out, I think it's just GY Fitness or GY Training Center on Instagram. Or you can go to my page or Maureen's page and check out our collab flyer. Make sure you guys reserve your spot because there's only 50 spots per day and they will go quick. They are already going quick. So that's one fun thing to look forward to. And Maureen, we've got just enough time to squeeze in. We're going to do a Fast 5 Q&A. This will be some
my gosh.
fun ones. And I just want the first answers that come to mind. This will be fun for you. So let's do it. We're going to break this down Fast 5 style. All right, number one, this is my favorite question. What's your favorite cheat meal?
Sushi.
Sushi. Okay. What kind you got a favorite roll?
Anything fried.
She likes the fried ones.
Only fried.
So when you come here, we've got a couple really good sushi spots. So
awesome.
We're gonna have to save some refeeds. It's a post Olympia too, so we'll save some refeeds for you.
Live life.
So fried sushi. Okay, give me a favorite song that gets you hyped for a heavy lift.
Oh my God, I'm gonna be penalized on this one. I love to listen to love song when I train legs. I need
songs, are they like upbeat at least?
like Michael Bolton love song.
Okay, you're gonna have to send me one because I gotta try this. Tomorrow's leg day, so
I'm so different when it comes to this. Like I don't like stressful. Like anything when I lift heavy, I like to be like as at peace as possible.
I got you. You're channeling the inner chakra, so I feel you. But that's good. I'm going to have to try that out. I've kind of got a big random playlist, but not going to lie, mine gets pretty gangster. There's a lot of skill switch engage and Tupac and DMX in there. So
I can do gangster in cardio for sure. But leg day, no.
I got you. All right, next one. This is a tough one. Best piece of advice you've ever received. And we'll make this specific to fitness, of course.
Okay. Maybe not just to fitness, in life in general. Okay, I have to put this all together. Like English is my third language. Okay, so like bear with me. I guess it's rock bottom will teach you something that mountain top couldn't do.
Yes.
And I've always thought like this. I've always every time there's a hardship or any, like a bump, let's say, I always call it as a bump, even though it's like heavy thing to deal with. Every time there's a bump, I always sit down, think about what's happening. And every time I get out from that bump, I always realize, oh my God, I'm learning something from this. I never really lose anything than just learning something. So that's what I realized, especially this prep, for example. This prep is very, very one of those, I'm not saying the hardest prep, but one of the heaviest prep I've ever done. And at the end, I'm just learning something, you know? So that's, I could give that. Like, don't let anything stops you, because at the end of the day, it shall pass and it will pass,
Right. And I love that you can take that energy, right? Those lessons that we learn at rock bottom, and we can channel that into your goals, right? For you, it's an Olympia goal, but it could be any life goal, right?
Exactly.
And you gotta definitely remain vibrating at that higher frequency, that higher energy, and make sure that you're taking those lessons, win or lose, applying them. And then that's how we grow, right?
Exactly.
All right. Last question. And then we will wrap today, Maureen. What is one thing people would be surprised to know about Maureen?
I don't know.
maybe like you, all right, maybe it's the sushi thing. Maybe you eat like 5 pounds of sushi. I don't know. But what's one thing that maybe
You caught me off guard there.
this is a good one. I'm gonna make you put your thinking hat. And this could be just, in life in general. It doesn't have to be in the gym.
Probably, low-key, I work so much better under pressure. I
Yeah.
didn't want to accept it, but I think that's like really, if I'm like in a very, very bad place, I work way better.
Yep. So like back against the wall, this is when that tenacious, that relentless, competitive Maureen is going to shine and do her best. And that's what it's all about. And the fact that you are self-aware of that is dangerous for everyone else. So I love that.
I tried so hard to low-key like, no, that's not true, but it is true. I guess because I didn't
Yeah.
want to go through it, but when I'm in it, I'm like, no, it's true. you know so
Yeah.
I mean, you could be like that too. Everybody could be like that too. I guess you really have to sit down
Yeah.
and talk to yourself about this, because at the end of the day, you only have one life. You're not given another chance. So why cry about things if you could actually, it's just a matter of time and you'll be okay.
Yep.
You really have to sit down and be friends with yourself, be best friends with yourself.
We've all got that, we call it the dark side or that alter ego that we can tap into. Not everyone knows how to do it, but if you've ever read, Mamba Mentality by Kobe Bryant, Relentless or Winning by Tim S. Grover, right? Tim talks about tapping into and channeling that dark side.
Exactly.
And that's where we got to go sometimes when we're trying
So
to
you
get
do
to that
believe
next
in that
level.
too. I believe in that. So you
100%.
do. Because some people think like that's not true. Well, I really believe it's true because there's a
Yep.
time that I'm like, there's a weak moment of time that I have, and I just let the other one take control, and I'm like out of that hole.
Yep. Yeah. So you
That's
got to be
true.
able to channel that dark side sometimes and use
Yeah,
it to your advantage. So,
that's
all
true.
right. Well, thank you so much, Maureen, for
Thank
joining
you,
us today
Andre.
and sharing so many beautiful insights today. Your journey is truly inspiring. For everyone that's listening, make sure you're following Maureen on social media for updates and her training, her upcoming shows. And, maybe we'll even throw some teasers out as she's going through her PBC certification and everything else that she's building. Maureen, tell our followers where they can find you online.
You can follow me at maureenblanquisco.pro on IG and in YouTube. I started my YouTube channel, which is Maureen Blanquisco. And I'm gonna start doing a series there where I train with the best in their elements. So probably Andre is gonna be one of them. And I already have one video there with Brad Contreras, and we'll see where it goes. I mean, that series will be not just for the bodybuilding part, but also, in any type of training. It could be like a soccer or could be like basketball. So
Okay, you
check
and
it
I
out.
got to throw down on the basketball court. That's my first
I
love.
love that. I'm from the
Oh,
Philippines.
I got a hoop here. I got a hoop here at home, so we're gonna get down.
Cool.
All right,
Okay.
that'll be some fun content. So keep a lookout for that, guys. And you guys know where to find me on Instagram at @AndreAdams_official or Team Adams_prep. You can also reach me online at AndreAdamsOfficial.com and email me direct if needed, trainingbydre@gmail.com. And guys, if you're looking to level up your own coaching skills, highly recommend checking out the NASM-PBC Physique and Bodybuilding Coach Certification. And you can actually get that 50% off right now if you are an NPC or IFBB Pro member right at npcnewsonline.com. That's all we have for today. Thanks again for tuning in to the NASM Peak Physique podcast. And we will see you next time. Signing off.